Welcome to 10 Minutes with the Director, a segment of the Albany Made Podcast, produced by Albany Public Library. I'm Scott Jarzombek, I'm the director, and I'll be taking 10 minutes of your time to talk to members of our community about the region and the city we love. I'm here with Joe Cammarere. You might recognize Joe Cammarere from behind the bar at some of your favorite restaurants and taverns. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I've been bartending in Albany, Capital District, for over a decade. I don't remember exactly when I started. I would say it's been probably close to 15 years at this point. I worked at Bombers on Lark Street for a very long time, and I currently bartend at Franklin Alley Social Club in downtown Troy and Lost and Found Bar and Kitchen in the Warehouse District of Albany.
You're in an industry that has been hit significantly by all of this. What has been your experience in Albany? How has the business landscape changed? How are you still serving people and still working?
Around the time that everything got shut down, they changed the laws to allow to-go cocktails and alcohol out of bars. So it's almost, beer was always allowed to be sold to go as long as the bottle or can wasn't opened. Now it includes cocktails. They have to be sealed properly, etc. But people can get booze, curbside pickup or delivery. Lost and Found is doing that on the weekends, and Franklin Alley Social Club.
I mean, a big part of being a bartender is kind of the social aspect. You're the untrained therapist for people. How's been adjusting to that? I mean, you go from a job where you're very hands-on and interacting people to now where you're kind of just making cocktails in the background and then no human interaction.
It's definitely a big switch. I refer to myself as a street therapist, but it's been a little bit strange, but it kind of, in a lot of ways, it's just been it's been a weird transition, but kind of fun. It's turned into just like a production job. It's almost like I work in a warehouse assembling booze as what I'm selling. But that aspect of it has been fine. I look forward to getting back to actually serving people. Who knows whenever that will be. It's been interesting, very surreal and strange, to be honest.
You also live kind of in the heart of Albany. You live relatively close to Center Square, Hudson Park. How's it been over there? That's a denser part of the city. How's your experience been with your neighbors and getting food and not having as much freedom to get around?
I haven't really been bothered by it. I know a lot of people have, but it's very strange to walk out of the house. And the neighborhood that I live in, it's just like a small one-way. All the neighbors know each other. There's a lot of families over here. So people will still interact on the street, but definitely, everybody wearing masks. And like, I'll walk up the street and I'll see somebody cross the street to walk on the other side of the street. And, normally I'd be like, well, what the hell? But, in this instance, I understand. The grocery store is right by me. It hasn't bothered me as much, I think, as it bothered other people. People are doing whatever they can to kind of like stay sane. So you're also a musician. How do you see that changing performance and clubs and live music? I mean, how have your friends been experiencing it? How have you been experiencing it? It's been a little strange, to say the least. I know that within the larger nationwide scene, I guess you could call it, there's been a lot of tours that have been canceled. People were being pretty optimistic with when this was going to end, and they were trying to book these tours and doing pre-sales for these shows that just, it doesn't seem like it's going to happen. I don't know when those gatherings are going to be allowed again. I know that right now you can do 10 or less in New York State. Other states, they have, it's free for all right now, but I don't know. It's very strange that there isn't a more uniform way to handle this. I really don't know how long it's going to be before there's an actual show gathering in like any type of venue, honestly.
You wanted to talk about some ways that you can support restaurant workers and bartenders in the city of Albany.
Through all this, there's been a lot of people that I know that have kind of found ways to be creative, to continue to make money, but for decent goods. And it's kind of interesting to see. There's a few out there that I would encourage people to check out. Number one would be Apartment Pizza, and we're going to link this in the show notes, allegedly, according to Scott. There's Apartment Pizza. It's custom pizzas made to order. They're really amazing. My friends Paula and Max are both making bread at home that you can order. This is all mostly done through social media, so a lot of their Instagrams are going to be linked. Also, if you're out there and you are a regular at a bar, there is I believe it's a Google sheet that has a list of all the bartenders and where they've worked. If you feel generous and you'd like to tip, you were a regular, you went in there on Thursdays, you haven't seen your Thursday bartender in a while and you want to send them a PayPal or a Venmo, that'll be on there. And then past that, there's the Interfaith Partnership, IPH. They support the homeless within Albany. You can go to their website, you can donate, you can volunteer. During this time, the homeless have kind of been, if they already weren't left out in the cold, organizations like this are trying to help, and they're not getting a lot of help financially from the people that are in charge or whatever it is. So if you can donate to help people out, it's a good cause, and it's people who need it. So
good. So Joe, what's one good habit or kind of thing that you've been doing while the state's been on pause that you hope to continue when things start to normalize?
A good friend of mine has a full gym in his basement, and I've been doing social distancing, lifting weights, which has been fun. And I did that before, but now it's kind of gotten more consistent. I'm looking forward to continuing that past this. I've been cooking. I mean, I feel like every single person has become a master chef through all this.
I no longer burn bacon. It's amazing.
I decided at the beginning of the year I wanted to learn how to cook French food. So I've been going through some French recipes, and it's been interesting and fun. Cool.
And what's one thing that you miss that you definitely want to get back to, and when life starts to look a little bit more normal, or is as close to normal as we can get?
You know, I'm the wrong person to ask that, because this solitude and this quarantine, I've been thriving. So I would say, honestly, I have this is going to sound insane, I miss kind of just doing a lap in the mall. I know that sounds crazy. I have a good friend who feels the same way, and when he comes to visit, we go get a cup of coffee, go park at Crossgates, walk in Macy's, do a lap, maybe do a little shopping, maybe not, walk out, you know?
You are a Latham boy at heart, without a doubt. Joe, thanks so much for taking time out to talk with us. Definitely, we will make sure that information's in the show notes. And, we're just trying to record Albany's history while we go through probably one of the craziest things Albany's ever been through. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Scott.
My name's Ryan. I work for Albany Public Library. I'm here with Josh Coletto, the owner and head chef at Nighthawks Restaurant and Bar in Troy, New York. The first thing I want to talk about is, from what I know of you, you seem to have a pretty philosophical position on food and where it's from and how you prepare it. And I'd be interested to hear what your philosophy is on cooking and how you like to feed people.
I think that for me, the truest expression of food would be like taking something that's grown the best way it can be grown by like a farmer who took great care of it and is just cooked in the simplest way to really showcase what that is. Because I think so much that people eat now is artificially flavored and devoid of any actual flavor because of the conventional big farming practices. Carrots don't taste like anything, but all this food tastes really good if it's on its own. So I think showcasing that is the most important thing to me as far as cooking goes, and what I like to get across from my message with that.
It's funny because I remember having a conversation with you about, because I've had your burger, and it's legitimately the best burger I've ever had. And I asked you like what it is, like how you did it, and you were just like, I don't know, it's just make a patty and put a little salt and pepper on it or something like that. So I think you're right about that, and I've experienced that even in my own cooking at home. I grew up eating a lot of venison and vegetables from my mom's garden and stuff like that, and it always is so much better than the store-bought stuff for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like any one doing any thoughtful work makes everything so much better, like in every aspect of food, from planting seeds to eating it. Even
the way you harvest the animals and things like that is really important. If they have a more peaceful life and a more peaceful end, I think it ends up with a better end result.
Yeah, and I mean, I would only want to work with farmers that have they work with the animals directly themselves, and they care about them. And a lot of the people are small farms that started because they wanted to feed their families really good quality meat or veggies, and then they just have the extra, so they sell it. Becomes what they do for a living.
I know you source a lot of your stuff locally. How has the pandemic affected your supply chain?
I mean, we have gone significantly down in what we use. Right now, we're almost just doing burgers. I think we're going to roll out some more stuff as we kind of go. But right now, we've just been doing to-go burgers, cocktails, our drinks, and veggie burgers, salad, veg of the day.
As basic as possible.
Yeah. And so I know that the farmer I work with for that, he has been busier than ever. Says every Saturday, there's a line of people, cars down the entire road waiting to come up and pick up their meat that they ordered from him.
Interesting.
He butchers all the animals on premises himself, like custom cuts for everybody. So he's, I remember, this summer, the guy, had a heat stroke and stress exhaustion from working 100+ hours a week. He cares so much about it. It's amazing.
Where's that located?
That's in Coharry. That's a Highland Hollow farm. But I work with him a lot. And, he answers any questions I ever have about animals. I love talking about different breeds of animals and curious what different farmers do. It's always, very interesting to me.
You've already sort of answered the question, but how are you maintaining the business? Are you, what's your current staffing? Did you end up having to lay off a bunch of people, or?
Yeah, that's definitely the worst part. We have 28 employees.
Oh, really? Wow.
Everyone's because we're open 7 days a week, and we do lunch, dinner, and late night, and then brunch on the weekends. We have a lot of moving parts being open that much. So we laid off. We had to lay off almost everybody. Luckily, they all can get unemployment and everything. But I kept my 2 kitchen managers on. But we just did get the PPP loan came through for us.
Oh, great.
So we're, we might bring some people back so we can kind of get a head start on making sure that we have our preserves and kind of coming up with a bigger takeout menu. Because I've been, I wanted to give enough people work. So I have been staying home as a backup. So I'm just kind of remotely working there even. So I don't even go in. They just kind of have me as a second tier if anyone has to, bow out or anything.
Do you have to implement any sort of aggressive safety protocols for the people who are still working?
Being an open kitchen anyways at Nighthawks and everything like that, we have to, everyone is very conscious of cleanliness all the time. So I think, because everyone's looking at, you sit at the bar, you see them doing everything. So everyone, is constantly washing their hands, gloves, already. So it's nice because, foodborne illness is already a thing, something we, you have to be cautious about. So
for sure. Yeah. It's funny that you say that too, because anytime I've ever been to a restaurant with an open kitchen like that, I find myself, I'm not looking for issues, but I'm always watching the chefs because I think it's interesting. So I think a lot of people probably do that. So they would probably notice if something weird was going on back there, Yeah. Well, that's cool. So you guys were kind of already using this level of caution to begin with.
Yeah. I mean, as far as hand washing and not working when sick. I'm more adamant about that than a lot of people, because if one person gets sick at a restaurant, every single person gets sick because we all work together so much.
So the library too.
So I don't want that.
Are you still selling alcohol?
We're doing the to-go alcohol now, which is really awesome that they've been letting us do that so we can sell. We have a lot of nice wine that doesn't really sell, but our cocktails, we've been doing to-go cocktails, and that sells pretty well.
That's cool. Yeah, I've been kind of seeing that around. It seems like a good idea.
Yeah, and have it delivered right to your house. That's
what I was going to ask. Yeah, so are you doing delivery and curbside pickup, or?
Yeah, we use Melio, which is Grubhub's kind of evil, but Melio's a local company, and they're doing they're a lot more friendly to the business.
Are you doing anything differently in terms of social media presence or advertising or anything like that to try to, I guess, stay on people's minds and be an option that pops in people's heads when they feel like not cooking?
We're constantly posting about we're trying different things to see what's selling right now, because everyone's just kind of throwing all their hats in the ring. My chefs there are coming up with different kits, everything, and burger, fries, beer, 2 burgers, fries, beer, or 3 cocktails with this special menu. We're just putting together different packages, and then just trying to advertise that. And most of marketing for the restaurant now has always been done through social media. Paid social media advertising seems to work the best.
How's the response been?
It's up and down. There's times where it's been good. In the very beginning, it was an outpouring of support from everyone. So it was almost busier at times than we had been. But now it's kind of slowing down. Again, I think, with the nice weather, and it always kind of happens a little bit, but,
There'll be an ebb and flow to it.
Yeah, totally. It's always like that, but it's just, it's weird.
How can we, as the general public, be more proactive in ensuring that, or at least giving you a better shot when all this is over and things sort of start to get more normal again, to just keep you guys going so that you can bounce back, and how can we support unemployed service industry workers sort of in general, just to
it's so hard. And I know I'm hoping that they can continue to collect unemployment for longer, which is so huge with the additional 600 that everyone's given for service industry, especially front of house. Who knows when that's going to be a thing.
Lindsey Graham is also saying over my dead body, I'm not going to extend that program and stuff like that. You're not getting any help from the federal government. That's
I know. I'm used to that.
It's the status quo. Nothing is shocking anymore.
It's small businesses, aren't what is in focus with a lot of these things. We're so small, we're just an afterthought. What 28 people? What is that to them? But
are you having a hard time maintaining optimism?
Oh yeah, does it sound like it? No, it goes up and down. It's just weird not being there right now. I really miss the restaurant a lot. Because it's that's my other baby, so I love it there. But and all my staff, that's who I hang out with all the time. But I am being very productive, and that keeps me sane and more optimistic.
Yeah, same for me. I've just been trying to occupy myself with, all weekend I was doing yard work, and I've never enjoyed yard work so much in my life. You know what I mean? Just because it's just something to do. I'm grateful that the library is providing me with more work like this. So that's been nice. Are you playing music?
Yeah, I'm writing country songs. I've been playing piano a bit more, which is really nice, and recording some stuff with that, which is really fun because I can actually play songs now on piano because I've been able to practice a bunch. And
yeah, that's great. Yeah, I've been experimenting with synths and noise and things like that. And just stuff I can do on my own.
Yeah, exactly. And I've just finished recording that album that you helped us with in the beginning. So
yeah, that came out good.
Yeah, the whole thing. We're trying to figure out how to make money to put that out too. So that's been something to keep me busy, is trying to figure that whole thing out.
Yeah, it's tough, man. The Maggot Brain record's done now, completely done, in spite of me saying that probably 300 times before now. But that's a whole lot. We're going to do another podcast episode about that sort of thing, this sort of new paradigm for musicians and how they're being affected, and how they're having to kind of change their methodology and how labels are releasing things differently now. And it's interesting. I was talking to, you know that dude Justin who runs Closed Casket?
Yeah.
I was talking to him and I was like, do you think we should like press our record, like a physical? He's like, dude, do it. Like online sales are stronger than they've ever been.
Yeah, like I feel like
people
now
are just chilling at home. They want something to consume, so they're, I've been buying tons of stuff. Just
I mean,
chill in my living room, listen to music.
Exactly.
I'm starting to run out of projects to work on, so I've actually been bringing up some old ones that like I know I could do better now, and trying to mess around with those and just to have something,
Yeah, totally.
I still every day, regardless of whether I have something in mind, I come downstairs and I turn all the, like right now I'm in my studio and I turn on all the lights, I turn on all my gear, and I might not even use it, but just something about doing that makes me feel more normal.
Yeah, I mean, it's like lots of needing comforts right now for sure.
Yeah. Are you enjoying cooking at home as an alternative?
I generally cook when my daughter is here so I can make her good food because, I want her to eat well. And so I'll cook the half the week that I have her. But then basically when it's just me, I eat cereal a lot and really into eating peanuts by the handful. And
I know a few people in the service industry, and they all eat like pretty much garbage food when they're like on their own. It's funny. I think you get used to just not having time to like sit down and really, because I worked in kitchens years ago, and you never had a chance to like sit down and actually enjoy a real meal.
Yeah, I mean, at the restaurant, I'm like I'm always surrounded by so much like good local produce and all these really nice veggie-based dishes that we do and all this. But I want to eat a hamburger 9 times out of 10.
Right. Yeah. It's comfort food. Yeah.
And at home, the last thing I want to do is cook most of the time.
I've been making bread. I've been enjoying that.
Yes, I love that everyone's making bread.
I've always wanted to try it, and now I'm home during the day. I can hang out while the dough rises and and go pop it in the oven.
Yeah, and it's really so simple.
Oh, I know. It's like I already memorized the recipe. I'll try some other stuff, but I've been doing it in a Dutch oven. It's been coming out really good.
That's the best way. You get that like crackly crust with it that way.
A little bit burnt on the bottom.
Perfect. Yeah. I have some starter that's 3-4 years old, but I've kept going for like a really long time. That's really good. I like adding sourdough starter to anything. Like if I make brownies, I'll add sourdough starter into it like a little bit.
What is
so when you make sourdough bread, it's basically the only 2 ingredients you need are flour and water, and then you'll leave it out. And basically, yeast is always floating through the air. It's everywhere. And so you are hoping to get the right kind of yeast. Sometimes you don't, but you use rye flour or you use a nice flour that has all the microbes still in it that's not totally bleached out. And then you leave it open and it starts to ferment and the yeast just naturally starts to build in there. It'll start to bubble and you feed it every day. And that's sourdough has that sour taste is from the fermented flour and water. So that's cool. If you have sourdough starter, all you need is basically more water and flour, and you can make a loaf of bread and salt if you want to make it taste better.
That's cool.
But it's pretty amazing. But I add that to everything I will bake, essentially, because it adds a sourness and depth.
Is that something you learned, or?
It's just like experimenting.
Just trying it out. Yeah, 'cause I bet you a lot of people wouldn't think of that. That's interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, like, the more you cook and everything, and, cooking, like, seasonally and locally, you have to use a lot of the same stuff. You don't have access to everything in the world. So you're like, this year I was like, all right, radishes, like, going to be like a nice radish dish on the menu every week, but it has to be different. And we have to come up with different preparations for it, So you kind of learn all the different ways you can do it. And then you learn the flavors of each thing. And then you just end up knowing what goes together. And
it's interesting. I can relate to that in the audio stuff. You just try, what if I use this piece of equipment on this thing, or if I distort this thing this way, or
yeah, exactly.
And then you build up a toolbox, and then you just know, like, the vocal's going to sound good through this compressor and this equalizer, and the brownies are going to taste good with this amount of radish in it, or whatever.
Yeah. Or whatever. Well, I mean, I know when I was younger, like I followed a lot of recipes and came up with ideas that way for like putting together menus, and it was really basic. But as I grew and learned and worked at different places and everything, I kind of like when I write a menu now, I just sit down and I don't cook any of the things on the menu. It's just I think about it and then we put it on the menu and I explain it basically to the cooks and the chef how all of it's going to be prepared, and they make it all and put it together. And it's just, it's going to go together. What flavors work well. For me, there's like, you try to balance all 5 tastes and put all of them into one dish in a balanced way.
What are the 5 tastes?
You got, salt, sweet, bitter, umami.
When you make a dish, are you pretty specific about the amounts of ingredients and things like that? Or is it kind of just you go by feel sort of? Or if you gave instructions to your chef, do you just kind of give them like a general guideline and sort of let them
I think
interpret it?
At this point, I give them a general guideline. And then like there will be specific things. I have a sauce thing, which is more of a traditional thing. That, it will be some traditional French. They won't know what that is.
There's some science involved. Yeah.
Yeah. And it has, to be called that. I don't want to call something that's not. I think menus should just be what the food is on it.
I think that's interesting, actually, because I remember like growing up, that was never a thing. And now pretty much every restaurant I go to, it's like a very vague name for the thing, and then listed underneath it is just every ingredient with a comma in between it. It's very like succinct and very kind of dry. I don't know when that started, but I feel like it makes me more confident in what I'm ordering for sure. I'm not a big eater by any stretch, but I also kind of appreciate that you would take the time to let us know.
But then I like how you don't necessarily know how it's prepared at the same time, which is really interesting about those kind of menus, because you can put a lot of thought into it without having to explain it all. And then people sit at the bar will ask those questions, if they're like, how do you do this? And then you're like, oh, well, no, I'm going to tell you like the 40-step process we came up with, this like stupid thing that doesn't matter. But like, it was really fun and it's like tastes great.
Well, you love talking about it too, It's like, it's the same thing when people ask me, like, how'd you get that vocal sound? And then I find myself about 10 minutes into the description being like, they've totally checked out at this point. They didn't think I was going to give them this much information.
Yeah. And you get like really excited. I'm like, oh, I'm making this person uncomfortable, like getting too excited talking about this, like rutabaga or something.
Right. What's your background? How did you get into doing this? Did you go to school for it? Did you learn from a mentor combination? Or did you just kind of like do the punk thing and just do it?
I think it was a little of all of it. I got, for some reason, got like really into cooking in high school, just spending all my time watching food TV. And like my high school offered a few different cooking classes. So I took like every single one. I was so like into cooking and like experimenting, and like I made so much bad food like all the time, but I just kept doing it all the time because I was so into it. And I knew basically when like right after I started getting into food, I went on a field trip to CIA. And then that's where I knew I wanted to go to school there. So many years.
Culinary Institute of America, right?
Yep. Yeah. And that's in Hyde Park, right by Poughkeepsie. But it's very prestigious school. And yeah, I had always wanted to go there. And then I got in, which was great. They have a bachelor's and an associate's.
Okay.
So I got an associate's in culinary arts. And then I went for the bachelor's program, but I dropped out because I didn't really care about like the hotel restaurant management. I couldn't deal with. It's like the corporate management aspect to me was like, this is not something I'm ever going to give a shit about.
How did you form relationships with these local farms?
Well, I think in culinary school, me and my roommate, who's still a really good friend of mine, he lives in Wisconsin, but we started to get really into the farm to table thing because it was still certain restaurants were doing it. It wasn't like everywhere was doing it quite yet. So like I always focused on that. And after I dropped out of school, I moved to Oregon and worked in restaurants and saw like farmers coming in with like a goat over their shoulder, that we'd hang in the cooler and butcher, or like a half a pig, and like getting boxes of nettles delivered by some guy, or like some weird man with crazy eyes dropping off pounds of mushrooms he found in the woods. And
that's great. That sounds infinitely more exciting than like Cisco dropping off boxes of beef.
Yeah, I mean, because you never know what you're going to get. Out there is where, we printed a menu every day, which taught me so much. And then I moved back and kind of, there wasn't anywhere around this area doing anything that I was really into.
I'm sure there's so many chefs out there that work in restaurants that's like, change everything over maybe seasonally, if that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I can't imagine, like, even if, like, it sounds to me like even if you're preparing the same dish multiple times, there's still just enough variance to it that it keeps your brain active, and it doesn't just become this like machine, like, muscle memory sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it must be nice to, have a thing for a little while and then let it go and move on to the next thing, and kind of keep it.
Yeah, and I mean,
it's to see how people respond to it when they come.
That's the coolest part, because we'll make it, and we'll make enough for like 20 portions or whatever on the chalkboard menu, and then once that's sold out, like that dish is gone forever. Like maybe we'll put it on again at some point, but it might, someone will come in and be like, that thing was crazy, but it was like, we randomly got something, like came in that we wouldn't normally get, and you made this and you came in on the right night.
I'm sure there's a lot of people that are like, oh, let's go see what Josh is cooking tonight. Instead of
yeah, it's cool because we have like regulars that like will come every week because they want to see what's on the menu for the week. So I think that's really fun. And I think it's really important to do affordable too. I think like the casual fine dining over like the whole white tablecloth thing. I'll put up our food up against any other like restaurant that's like a white tablecloth spot any day. And no,
I find those places up more often than not to be disappointing anyway.
Yeah.
And just the vibe is just, I mean, for me personally, it's not the right kind of deal. Like I'd rather eat in a place that's more function over form, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think Nighthawks, people like the atmosphere there so much because it's very like community. All the staff is very community oriented. We're all so tight. I want everyone to kind of, I have the final say on menus and stuff like that because, I want it to be cohesive in general. But once the chefs know style and do that, they have total creative freedom.
And they must appreciate that so much. It'd be such a nice place to work.
In a way, like, because I taught cooking for a while, everyone learns more, changing, obviously doing everything different like all the time, but like, I think my cooks know how to cook like almost everything now because they have to learn that. And I think that's what, how you make a chef, a person that wants to open a place and understand how to manipulate food, different things, not doing the same thing over and over necessarily, just improv it, throw it all to the wind and learn how to make it work.
That's one of my favorite things about recording and mixing bands too, is that I often get, the band will tell me they have some practice demos or something like that, and they'll ask if I want to hear them beforehand. And I used to, but I realized that I hated going into it with any kind of preconceived notion of what was going on. I would rather have those couple hours of kind of chaos before the first take where hopefully the artists don't realize, but my brain is kind of working in this sort of manic way of like, oh, how am I going to pull this off so that when they come in and listen to that first take, they're like, oh, this is great. This is like a good representation of what we're doing.
Totally.
And I get a big thrill out of that part of it about not knowing. And I used to do a lot more mobile recording.
Yeah, I remember the one we did.
Yeah. That and I always loved walking into a new space and just kind of taking in the character of the space and working with it. And it sounds like that's sort of analogous to what's going on in your kitchen. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I think that's similar to like my pop-up that I was doing too, like that.
That's how I was first introduced to your cooking, was when you did that taco stand at that fest that we booked right before Valentine's closed.
Oh yeah, that was, just because like, I thought my food was good. I worked in Portland at like really nice restaurants. I felt like I knew what I was doing, and I felt like, no one wanted to give me a chance because it was very like old school, like chef hierarchy driven. It wasn't like, I'd seen the way owners would, if the dishwasher calls out, owners would just come in and be like, okay, cool, stay home if you're not feeling well. I'll come in and wash the dishes tonight. And it changed the way I thought about like restaurants and like, everyone wants to like do good things at the restaurant if everyone gets to do what they want,
Right. And if you surround yourself with the right people, you can be comfortable doing that.
Yeah. And I mean, that's like the most important thing. Like I'd much rather hire on personality than anything else. I can teach anyone to cook. I taught high school students how to cook for a long time. Now, like that's pretty tough sometimes.
Yeah, I struggle with that because I've tried to bring people in with recording. People are interested in it. And my brain doesn't really work that way. I get more frustrated if the result I need isn't happening because I have to explain it to somebody. I'm like, so I kind of stopped doing that. Unfortunately, I feel kind of bad saying that, but I applaud anyone who has the ability and the patience to guide rather than just kind of get frustrated and be like, I'm just going to do it myself.
I think after I taught high school, my patience in the kitchen and the way I thought about like managing people in general changed so much because you just have to make people interested and then they're going to do the work. It's so hard to release that total creative control. If I taste something that someone made and I'm like, I know they didn't do certain things to it that I would have done that would make it, I think, better. It's more important to push them to try to make it so it's really good and not necessarily what I would make. No one's thinking about it as much as either of us there. So like person eating it is not thinking about it in the way I am when I'm like thinking it like, being like it needs this acidity, and is missing some fermented pickling liquid or something to round it out or like whatever, it's just like,
yeah,
you have to give it up sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the same thing with the records I mix. No one's sitting at home or in their car thinking, man, I wish that snare drum had a little bit more 4,000 cycles EQ on it or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's, you have to let go. It's a really good thing. It took me, sometimes I get a little too close to the thing and I kind of lose sight of what the band wants versus like how I think it should be, because I try to be more of like a sort of a documentarian in a way. I find it very analogous to photography too, where you're capturing a moment and you just use that to sort of then guide the rest of the process.
I think the hardest thing when people become chefs is like having a style, with anything, like how do you have a unique style that's like recognizable in a way? And I think helping people like find that as a way to like, taste those old things from a moment in time. Like what did, if it's your grandma made something you really liked or like, your dad or whoever, like your friend's mom, like it doesn't even matter, but like I can taste things and just have that in my brain, that exact moment in time, the same way I can for like a song or like anything in that way. And I think that, that's what a lot of the cooking style comes from is like the things that are most normal and comforting to you. How can you make those things just better and better and better? It's all meat and potatoes in the end.
How can people support you in your restaurant?
We have our website, nighthawkstroy.com. There's an online ordering link on there, and that goes through Melio. And you can do pickup or delivery through online, or you can just call us at 518-272-1000, and we'll make food. Give us a call.
The Albany Made Podcast is a production of Albany Public Library in Albany, New York, produced by Stephanie Simon, Scott Jarzombek, and Ryan Slowey. You can find more episodes on SoundCloud, iTunes, and other podcast apps. You can also listen on YouTube at Albany NY Library and our website, albanypubliclibrary.org.